What's going on, guys and gals? It is Darth. That's right, I'm still alive, and I am back, at least for now, and we're in Queen's Blade Limit Break. So I want to take the time to go ahead and kick off the series. I've been kind of avoiding this for long enough, and I've actually recorded it several times, and it always comes out to be 12 to 14 minutes, and nobody wants to listen to me that long, especially about this particular topic. But I sent out a post on YouTube stating that my time with the game is looking like it's going to become less and less frequently, as well as making content. Simply put, is I don't really see the point, and hopefully you can kind of see why I'm saying that as we go along. The game has kind of evolved, but in a good way and in a bad way, but not in a way that is going to be enough. A lot of people are burnt out right now. I don't know what you're hearing and seeing on your servers. So hit me up in the comments. Let me know where you're at with the game, how you feel about it, a lot of the changes that they've made, attempts to try to keep the player base interested. But I want to start off by saying, hey, thanks and welcome to all the new subscribers. I hope that this doesn't leave a bad taste in your mouth, because I know a lot of you are new subscribers recently, and it's been an influx. From what I hear, Discord isn't doing so well. A lot of the people that used to post on there that people listen to stopped playing, which is just kind of proving my point a little bit. But for me, I want to talk about two particular subjects today, which is going to be a main crux of why people are having issues with the game, is G123's refusal to make proper changes that affect the game's health over time and do it in a timely fashion. Today I want to talk about warrior bloat, and I want to talk about PvP meta, which also affects PvE, because PvE is an actual competition. If you don't have to care as much in PvE, but it is a competition and it's affected all the same. So when I refer to PvE and PvP, I'm referring to it the same. But I can't talk about the meta without talking about warrior bloat, because they're one and the same to me. Not that long ago, last year I made a video about goals. If you don't have goals in this game, you are going to find yourself completely lost, confused, and frustrated, and you're going to give up. But you got to understand the game, which is why I set out to make content about this little known game when nobody else was doing it, because I thought it'd be a good icebreaker into making content. Well, let's get into it. Character bloat. What is that? It basically just means that there's a lot of warriors in the game. I'm not talking about the original warriors. I'm talking about these ones with a special tag event. They've released new warriors, and every one of them have an event tag. There are a few straggling older ones that aren't necessarily old, like her, that aren't new. They were part of the original cast, but they are made event warriors. So what they do when they want to release new warriors is they do it in an event style, where they allow you to summon it using a special currency and then unlock their spicy pose as well. The problem is they've released quite a few warriors, and generally that would be a good thing. I like that, and I had a goal of collecting one of every warrior for specific purposes, because when they institute game mechanics, they generally feature warriors that either give you a buff in damage, kind of like the monster takedown. If you use the featured warrior, you actually get a increase to your stats, helping you do more damage. Otherwise, you're at a negative affinity, meaning that you should do less damage. Same thing with one of the most popular features that runs on an every 2-week basis now is the souped up version of the wilds called the Voyage. And I'm going to talk about the Voyage as we go through this, and you're going to kind of see my point. The problem is the PvP meta, which is the vast majority of the game, is affected by warrior bloat, and vice versa. It's great that they're introducing new warriors. I set a goal to obtain new warriors for specific purposes. The problem is the PvP meta in general is dominated by 5 specific warriors altogether, okay? And you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Philea. I'm talking about P. Claudette. I'm talking about my nemesis, the fish, Sakine. I'm talking about Captain Pirate, Leliana, Swift Tracer. And there's a few other honorable mentions, but generally those 5 warriors are all you need. The problem is they've been all you've needed for months and months. They are way too good at their job that they overshadow any warrior that has been released, with the exception of some of the ultimate warriors. But let's face it, most of you will never have them because you're not going to spend the kind of money needed to get them to a useful level. Vesper notwithstanding. Now, there are ways to do it cheaper, but somebody in my guild before I could even, I haven't talked to my guild much about it, but one of our higher spenders in the guild said, you know what, I'm done pulling for warriors, I'm going to focus on what I got, there's no point. And he's right. He's right, because these 5 warriors are all you need. In fact, they are so good at their job, 2 things is happening. That people are creating 2, 3, and 4 12-star versions of the fish to compete and put them in multi-team, like the multi-team battles. Some content like survival mode here, as you go up, allows you to compete on 1, 2, and 3 teams. Same thing with a lot of the other PvP items, and there are certain other areas that you can compete on a multi-team level. Sometimes events would do that. They're creating 4 versions of P. Claudette, 4 versions of the fish, and keep in mind, 12-star versions, you got to pay for that. Okay, there are certain ways to do it cheaper and free, but generally you have to pay. That is absolutely ridiculous. And this is further contributed to the character bloat. What reason do you guys have, and me as a content creator, to come in here and say, hey, pull for this reason and that reason? To sit there and say pull for these when all you need is 5 warriors every time. These guys do their work. These guys do so well that I talked about the Voyage. The Voyage is a multi-attribute land that you generally go in, and you can use any setup you want, any warriors you want. The problem is if you use a negative affinity, so if you go into the physical, which is the burn area, and you use anything but physical teammates, you're supposed to be at a negative stat advantage, making it much more difficult. So the intent was to kind of drive you into using specific teams. But it's not needed, and I can tell you that with 100% certainty because I can clear all of the Voyage with the fish, Leliana. I use Witch of Allure, P. Claudette. There is no tactical disadvantage because that stat debuff actually isn't making a difference. And in fact, you guys know I posted it that I just got Sakine. I refused to use her. Well, I built her up and I've been using her, and she makes clearing the Voyage in all attributes, with one exception. The physical one is still difficult. I die there sometimes, and it's just because I think that they've done a really good job of updating the physical unit, so I just don't select it anymore. It's not that I can't do it, it's just there's no point in spending 100 gems to revive once or twice. But that's not the point. The point of what I'm talking about is that it is ridiculous that the only warriors that have mattered are those 5. There are some other honorable mentions and some other things that people could talk about. Hey Darth, in guild, when you manage your 3 attempts here, you can't use the same warrior. Yeah, you actually can if you have another version of the warrior. Yeah. Now, there was one exception too, is the anniversary boss that did the 70% HP burn. Shamuel actually was my go-to. She is a rock solid warrior. And these warriors are just being overshadowed. They have good usefulness, but it's few and far in between. So, in my opinion, what the game has been doing is they've been trying to distract you without actually having to change people like the fish. They institute these galleries. Hey, collect spicy indexes. We'll give you bonuses to HP and attack. And that's standard with gacha games. They want you to obtain the warriors, but there's no point in having anything outside those 5 warriors because you can do almost anything with just those 5. And G123 cannot get it through their goddamn heads that they've shot themselves in the foot by this. And it's hard, like I said, it's hard for me to come in here and say, you guys should, pull for these warriors. Why? To sit in your inventory. Or include them when you really, I talked about the monster takedown, you actually really don't need to include them. I don't know if you know. If you didn't know, there is one warrior in particular that matters, and it's not even a high-level warrior. It's this one right here. It's S. Tomo. You can even use her as a purple version. She does more damage because of the, as long as you can keep particularly in the spider one, this HP cap right here counts as damage. It's just how the damage calculation is. So do yourself a favor. If you want higher numbers, put her in and find a way to keep your team from being immobilized. Advanced Purity Room, cough, cough. I'm just saying, so things are getting a little dicey here, and their refusal to tone down and make changes is just going to lead to more character bloat. It's like, again, why am I pulling for warriors that aren't going to matter? And unless they make a change, there really is no point in talking about these anymore. I can showcase them, but the advice to most people who continue to be new players and mid-level players who don't have the fish built up in P. Claudette is just, all you got to do is pull for them. Build up your P. Liliana and your Swift Tracer. You'll be fine. Get your artifact gear. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, again, one of the things they could do to change that is just only allow one version of the warrior on any given team. But then they're going to have to compensate everybody who took the time to build up 5 warriors of any particular one deal. If it were me, I'd tell them, you know what, screw it. I mean, it's their fault for building one character, but it's the game's fault for allowing it to happen. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to kind of kick things off, just get right to it, and, it is what it is. And in the next one, I'm going to talk about cores, because that has created an issue recently as well. And then I'm going to talk about the in-game currencies and how there really is no point outside of one set of gear and one team-oriented type of room. And things like that. So let me know what you guys thought in the comment section, where you're at in the game, how you're feeling. If you would like to see changes to the game, hit me up as well, because I'll pass them on to G123. Not that they listen, but it is what it is. Thanks for taking time to watch, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.